Alright guys, Brazil have just beaten Serbia by 2 goals to 0, a Richarlison double, and so far this season he hasn't actually scored one goal in a game. He's only scored 0 or 2, which takes some doing considering he's done it twice now. And that second goal was purely just incredible. That's gonna be up there with the goals of the tournament, 100%. It was brilliant touch into the air and really good. I don't even know what the word is. Just like spontaneity, to just do that. Um, yeah, improvisation. That improvisation. That would be the correct word. And really good strike. And the first goal, even the first goal, was a really well taken goal as well. But Brazil as a whole, first half, I thought it took them a bit of time to get going. Serbia didn't threaten really at all throughout the game, other than a few set pieces. And yeah, they weren't bad. They were solid defensively for most of the game. I think they sort of lost their discipline a little bit towards the end after they had conceded the second goal, and it felt like the game had gotten away from them. But yeah, really good performance in the second half from Brazil. Though the first half, they took time to get going, and I thought with how Serbia were defending, the midfield of Neymar and Paqueta, it was creative, but they almost didn't quite have the full freedom that you want those two players to have, because then obviously Casemiro gets left on his own, and if you get the front three that Serbia had of Milinkovic, Savic, Tadic and Mitrovic around him, that can cause problems. There's only so much him and an ageing backline can deal with. So that was a bit of an issue in the first half. But the second half, they decided, right, we're just going to go for it a little bit more. And it was just constant pressure, and it was only a matter of time before they took the lead, which they did just after the hour mark through Richarlison, like I said. They had missed a few chances up until that point. Rafinha in particular had probably the two best chances in the first hour of the game. The first one, it was just a tame shot, and the second one came from an error from Milinkovic Savic, the goalkeeper this time, playing it into Gudale, I don't know how you say it, Gudale, who was under a lot of pressure, shouldn't have had the ball given to him really, and Rafinha won it and should have scored. He needed to lift it over the goalkeeper and he didn't. Should have definitely done it a lot better with that opportunity. And yes, Serbia, they just didn't really have much up front. They brought on Vlahovic with about 20 minutes to go, and he looked all right. He had to come a deep a lot to get the ball, so it wasn't really very effective. But that there was one occasion on the set piece where him and a few other big lads in the Serbia team did cause a bit of trouble. But the main problem Serbia had was they started Mitrovic, who didn't look sharp at all. He very rarely managed to get hold of the ball when it did occasionally go forward into that area of the pitch from Serbia. He's obviously been injured lately, hasn't played for Fulham, so yeah, but he didn't look sharp at all really, really struggled. And Serbia as a whole, they struggled to get on the ball, and towards the end of the game it was just far too easy for Brazil. They managed to bring on pretty much all their attacking players off the bench, who it was almost just like not showboating from the players, but showboating from the manager. In the end, it's like, look at who we've got to bring on: Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, Rodrigo, and who was the other one? Oh, of course, Anthony, as well as Fred as well. And yeah, just so many attacking options. And but when you see them celebrate the goal, they celebrated as a team, which was nice to see for both of Richarlison's goals. And you just look at the players that are on the bench celebrating, and you see players like Fabinho, Eder Militao, Dani Alves, just so much quality. Edison even. like so much quality on the bench that like he can't even get into the starting 11. So the depth that Brazil have is obviously ridiculous. But in terms of the performance as a whole, the second half was really impressive, but Serbia, I feel as though let their heads go a little bit towards the end, which probably made it a bit easier for Brazil as well. The only downside for Brazil really would be that Neymar went off. It didn't look like anything serious, but it looked like a precaution. But you know, you never want to see one of your best players go off with a bit of a knock. So that would be pretty much the only downside for Brazil. If I'm comparing them to how I think they do against the most impressive teams of this tournament so far, in terms of France, England, and Spain, who, in fairness, they did look impressive, but did play very weak opposition in Australia, Costa Rica, and Iran. So it'll be like they're going to have harder second games in their group than the first game, definitely. So that'll be interesting. But in terms of how I think they do against top nation, I think they'll need to make some tactical tweaks. I don't think you can get away with playing a midfield three of Paqueta, Neymar, and Casemiro. Basically, Casemiro being isolated at times and almost playing like a front five. I just don't think that's possible. So they will need to have probably Fred. I would imagine would be Tite's choice. He seems to trust Fred a fair bit, so I think Fred will probably start the further on the competition goes. The deeper we get into the knockout rounds, I would imagine that would be what Tite opts for. But yeah, it was an impressive second half performance. It took a little bit of time for them to get going, and yeah, Brazil are obviously going to be up there with like picks of teams to win the tournament. Now, I think out of all the teams that have played really well so far this tournament or have looked amazing, I think you have to say Brazil have played the toughest opposition, because even though Serbia aren't by any means like going to be winning this World Cup, or nobody ever thought they would anyway, they are still a level up on teams like Australia, Iran, and Costa Rica, who, you know, are the teams who have been battered by some of the other stronger nations. So Brazil were also unlucky for it to stay at 2-0. I mean, Alexandro and Casemiro had two great efforts, hit the woodwork from outside the box. Casemiro's in particular, the first time, just whips it, and if it had been 2 inches lower, that's a brilliant strike. So yeah, it's slightly unlucky at times as well, Brazil, which has to be said. But anyway, Brazil have beaten Serbia fairly comfortably is the main thing to take away from this. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.